first movie, Age of Adeline, it's somewhat like the Time Traveler series that we've been watching lately in the films.
映画に行きたい気分です。楽しみにしています。
Adeline is a story about a woman who gets into a freak car accident. The car goes over the bank. This is 1937, I believe. Goes over the bank through a bridge. She's on an old country road. Car's halfway in the water because it's a stream. It's not a lake or anything. But she gets knocked unconscious and falls below the water line. So she starts to freeze. Now, what happens is, as she's freezing in the water, she drowns. She's dead. Her DNA shuts down inside each of her cells. And then the car is struck by lightning because it's the only metal in the area. And it energizes her body so that her telomeres, which are on each of your DNA strands, telomeres determine your deterioration. I'll explain it in a second. They go into suspension. In other words, they don't break off. The breaking off of telomeres determines your rotting, your decay, your future death. Every time your DNA divides, and then on a ribosomic platform, the ribosomic DNA joins with the regular DNA to form a new DNA strand. Well, at the end of the DNA strand, there's a whole series. I mean, there's thousands of them in many cells, which are called telomeres. Now, they're useless. They don't do anything. But they're called loss leaders in some phrases. So that every time the cell divides, there's a little strand of telomere that's at the end of the DNA strand. This breaks off. It's useless. But eventually you run out of telomeres, and then the loss starts going into your regular DNA, your programming, and you begin to deteriorate. You start to be defective. And the first telomere damage that you'll notice on your person or your body is going to be your hair. It will turn gray. That's telomere damage that causes that to happen, and you can't reverse it. You can't reverse that, but DNA is, if you have stem cells, these are like brand new cells. If you attach these cells onto regular cells, they will start a whole new life for you. And through stem cell implantation, you can literally live for 1,000 years if you want, in good healthy body if you exercise well. But putting that aside, her DNA telomeres don't drop off, so she's got this constant healthy DNA that keeps her looking 29 years old from decade to decade to decade, right up until the present time. When she's involved in a second car accident, she dies. The winter conditions are the same, and as she's dead, the paramedics bring her back to life with another jolt of electricity, which reverses the process, and she begins to age. The first thing she notices in the mirror is that she has a gray hair, which means that the telomeres are breaking off. Because, like I said before, you know your telomeres are active by breaking off when you see that gray hair, because that's the first thing that's going to go in age. This whole story, it revolves around a sociological problem. What happens if you are the only one in your situation or your colony or community that's not aging and everybody else is? can you have a relationship with someone? And initially, she didn't, because she didn't want to become a freak show back in the 30s, 40s, 50s. No, they wouldn't have noticed in the 30s. Back in the 50s and 60s, she didn't want to be anybody's freak show, so she learned how to adapt, how to change herself, how to hide herself, and she kept away from relationships because she didn't want the heartbreaking situation of being young while your husband ages and grows old and dies, and then you have to do it again and again and again. So she avoided physical contact, and that's what this whole movie's about. What do you do if you're in a situation like that? How do you handle your love life? Well, as fate would have it, she eventually meets up with the son of a former lover from the 60s, and he recognizes her. This is the Harrison Ford character. There is a younger actor from Canada who's playing the younger version of Harrison Ford, and he looks just like him from Star Wars. Just the movie Star Wars, not the other films. It is not Harrison Ford's face being computerized and put on this young guy's body. This is actually what this guy looks like. He's actually on YouTube imitating Harrison Ford. That's how he got this job, because he looks just like the Harrison Ford when he was in his younger days. But the Harrison Ford character recognizes Adelaide as his former love. He confronts her and she breaks down. She runs away again from his son, gets in the car accident. As she's deciding that, you know what, I'm not going to run anymore. I'm going to fall in love with this guy, I'm going to marry him, and he's just going to have to deal with the situation. As she's turning the car around to go back to him, this is in a wooded area, that's when they have the car accident. She's thrown from the car, the prick that hit her drives off and leaves her there to die, which she does. Paramedics bring her back, it reverses again, she starts to age. This is an excellent film. I love this movie, it is so perfect, the soundtrack's great, the acting is perfect. The acting of all the characters in this movie fit perfectly. The film takes place it was shot in Canada, Australia, and San Francisco. I really recommend this film.